Hello, I'm Xavier Villarmarzo, Communications Manager with AARP Driver Safety. Since 1979, AARP Driver Safety has aimed to meet the needs of consumers in the rapidly evolving transportation landscape. As we celebrate 40 years of service in communities nationwide, AARP Driver Safety has reached nearly 20 million people through our leading educational programs. That great impact wouldn't be possible without our nationwide network of dedicated volunteers and the many people at AARP who have been instrumental to AARP Driver Safety's growth and evolution throughout the years. And with me today are two people who are very important to the history of AARP Driver Safety. Kyle Rakow, our Vice President and National Director, and Michael Seaton, who developed the curriculum that today is known as the AARP Smart Driver course. Thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael, today many people are obviously familiar with AARP Driver Safety and the award-winning AARP Smart Driver course, but not many people know about its many beginnings. Tell us a little bit about how that came to be.
This might surprise people. I joined AARP in 1972. I'd worked in Washington at the office, national office, for 2 years. I was given an opportunity to go in the field and learn the field activities and the volunteer roles in carrying out those assignments. So I went down to Florida for 2 years. At the same time, Dr. Anders had died, and the association's co-founders, Ruth Lana and Dorothy Crippen, were still very much active and very much in charge of activities within the association. This would play a role in actually developing the program. They would always ask about driver improvement, and I said, it's not going well. The people don't respond to it. It isn't the right format. It isn't the right description that they need to know to improve their driving. Ruth asked me at dinner, she said, what you would do to change the current situation with driver improvement. And I said, we could develop our own course geared to the needs of the older driver, age-related changes, the things they need to know, like right-of-way left turns where they have all the accidents. And she said, we don't have the expertise to do that. But I got a call a week later from the staff in Washington I was working with on coming back, and they said, why don't you design the owner driver classroom refresher for the association?
Wow, I don't think many people know about that. So Kyle, what was it about AARP Driver Safety that initially brought you on and then eventually made you become National Director?
Sure. So I started with AARP back in 2008. And my background's in finance. At the time, I was managing some of our financial services and products at AARP. And in 2011, the previous national director had reached out to me and wanted to know if I'd be interested in a senior advisor focused on partnerships for AARP Driver Safety. And at that moment, a light bulb just sort of went off. And there's 40,000 fatalities on our road every year, and unfortunately, one of those back in 2001 is near and dear to my heart. And this was a real opportunity for me to make more of an impact in my best friend's memory, who passed away in a fatal car accident. And it's something that I reflect on often, and it was just from then on, I knew that I was meant to be a part of this program and a part of this program story.
So Michael, Kyle talks about a little bit about his background, and your background in study led to the development of the AARP Smart Driver course. And you said in the past how volunteers were instrumental in the development of what is AARP Driver Safety today. So tell us a little bit about the early days of how volunteers did play a crucial role in developing what driver safety is today.
So I got involved pretty heavily in 2 years with all sorts of volunteers, from kindergarten teachers to the head of Mobile Oil's Paris office. There was quite a wide range of people, medical doctors, librarians, all walks of life. Everyone could do the job if they had a commitment and felt they were getting something out of the job. But also I found that if there was a clear job description, if they had an opportunity to be creative within that job description and within the guidelines, and they could have a chance to, if they were steamed, sort of vent their frustrations, they would pretty well work real diligently to accomplish the task. So when I went back to Washington to develop the older driver program, I based the jobs on the volunteer jobs on what I had seen in the field. It's almost like, this is sort of an odd thing to say, but it's true. The old vaudeville act where they had the flexible pole and the spinning plates. Someone from Washington is not going to run around the country as these plates are toppling over. But if you have hundreds of volunteers out in the field spinning those poles, keeping the plates spinning, you've got a program that will last forever.
And obviously today we continue to have volunteers. So Kyle, I'll ask you, how different do you think it is nowadays with the volunteers that we have today?
I would say it's actually more of the same. You know, our volunteers are the heart and soul of AARP Driver Safety. They're the trusted advisor. They're the friendly neighbors. You know, they're the key ingredient that separates AARP Driver Safety from any other driver safety program that's out there. And not to mention from a program sustainability and scalability standpoint, volunteers are critical from that aspect as well. And so much so, as we continue to evolve and develop new and emerging programs and pilots, we certainly look to leverage that history and experience of volunteerism and making sure that we're integrating volunteers into the instruction of these new programs as well.
Michael, you talked about having the great support of volunteers. What would you say was the biggest challenge or challenges that you faced, and how did you overcome them?
There was one challenge that I jumped on immediately. The volunteers had to find a free site to hold the course. And when I was in Florida, I saw a lot of hospitals and banks would sponsor the chapters. The chapters would meet, if there was a condominium, they'd meet in a condominium, obviously. But they didn't always have condominiums to go to for chapter meetings. Banks and hospitals were a rich source of free sites. So immediately when I started developing the program and instructors came on, I had them go to their local hospitals to see if the hospitals would sponsor the program, provide a free site. If they had a senior club, maybe they would provide through their newsletter information about our course. I took the little pieces that the instructors sent to me as to their success in the field, and I went to the American Hospital Association and said, why can't we develop a joint sponsor packet between the associations and the American Hospital Association? We did. I did the same thing with the American Bankers Association, and what it did is allowed banks to see what other banks were doing across the country and how they might become involved and the benefits to the bank.
So Michael talked about challenges. Tell us what you think are the biggest challenges for AARP Driver Safety, not just today, but maybe going forward.
Absolutely. I think the biggest challenge is obviously our biggest opportunity as well. And that's the significant advancement of technology and how that's changing the transportation and mobility landscape. And so it's one of the reasons why we're working so hard to continuously innovate and evolve AARP Driver Safety to make sure that we're staying ahead of the curve on technology. And we're focused on technology on two different tracks. One is the technology within the vehicle. And so actually we just rolled out a new program called Smart Driver Tech. It focuses on the top 9 technologies in the vehicle, so like lane departure assist and forward collision warning and things like that. That's a 90-minute in-person workshop that we just recently actually integrated volunteers into the instruction and developed it online. And secondarily, within technology, we're also spending a lot of time educating the 50+ on the technology to request a ride. So ride sharing and ride sourcing is, within the last 5 years, become a $5 billion business that is now providing more mobility options. And I think, as we know the criticality of mobility as we age, it's our responsibility as AARP and AARP Driver Safety to make sure that individuals don't become isolated. And I think given the advancement of technology, we have a real opportunity to provide mobility for a lifetime, and I'm committed to AARP and AARP Driver Safety playing a part in getting to mobility for a lifetime through our programs.
Would you have any advice as someone who is familiar with programs starting up within AARP? Do you have any advice for Kyle in that sort of situation?
I wouldn't say the word advice. I have a consideration. When I was managing the program from 1977 from its beginning until 2002 when I left, we only focused on the older driver classroom refresher. That was our sole purpose. Now things have changed as I've been gone for 16 years now. That there's an online course, there's a dynamic and improving website, and now the smart tech that Kyle is working on. I would just say this, that the heart and soul of the program remains the volunteers. And that in the future, it may be good use of everyone's time, both the volunteers and the Washington staff, to do their best to think of innovative and new ways to recruit volunteers to keep the program growing and vibrant in the years ahead.
Excellent advice. Thank you.
That's a good way to end this. Thank you both again for taking the time to be here with us, and especially you, Michael. It's an honor to finally get to meet you after hearing so much about you. So thank you for joining us and spending this time today.
Pleasure.
And that's a perfect way to punctuate this conversation. A special thank you again to former head of AARP Driver Safety, Michael Seaton, and current National Director Kyle Rakow for taking the time to be here. We appreciate hearing their thoughts and experiences. Thanks so much for watching.